Whoops. Something not quite right. What did I do wrong? Will be cable A. Got this over here.
I just got a little message about Facebook Live.
Yeah, all of a sudden I lost my sound. Where did the sound go? This is working over here. Let's try it this way, see if this works. No, that doesn't work either. Well, then we'll just go without the music and I will patch that in
I'll
later.
just do the dancing part.
Okay, the dancing part. That's right.
I always have to dance with that music. I love that song.
Well, this is
It
what
just gets
happens.
me in the mood. I'm like,
This is what happens when you're experimenting with new software, and that's what we're doing. We're experimenting with new software, but that's okay. We'll get going anyway. Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Patty Framo on this Monday, October the 29th, 2018. It is 4 p.m. New York time. That is, that's 9 p.m. London time and 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. So now we've covered
good for you.
all the major time zones that we're reaching. And how you doing, Patty? We haven't talked in a week, but how's it going?
I'm doing great. It's just, I am just so excited to have everybody's face here.
Isn't that
We
great?
haven't had that.
I know, this
It's
is new
so
for us.
different.
It is.
It is. There's
It's fun
something
to
about, because
see.
we've never actually met.
That's right. Yeah,
So to have the face involved with the voice and everything else together is really cool. It just adds a little extra dimension.
it really does. Yeah. Well, plus you get to see the body language. You get to see the smiles. You get to see the laughter. It's not just hearing it. You get to see it, which is fun.
It's true.
So
I kind of like that. I
yeah,
kind of like that.
it's really good.
Yeah, you've got a great laugh whenever we're hearing it, so now I get to see what you're like.
Well, good. I'm glad you like my laugh. That's a good thing. And we have a special guest with us today. You want to introduce our guest to the audience?
Yes, Linda is actually a member of my meetup, my Law of Attraction meetup that I do. And we've talked a little bit about doing some Law of Attraction coaching. And I just thought this would be a really cool way to give her some coaching, allow us to do some coaching, and then also kind of show people what is involved in that. Because I think coaching is one of those kind of nebulous things that people are like, what does that really mean? Are you just going to tell me what to do? And how does that work? And, I think everybody does it differently. And I find that, because everybody has their own little way that they bring to the table. And, given that I've got a background as a licensed clinical social worker, I've got kind of that counseling approach as well as my coaching background. And as well as the law of attraction approach. It's sort of a three-pronged thing. So it's very hard to put into words.
Yeah, but you did a
And
very
I
nice
love
job.
that we get oh, well, thanks. But I love that we get to sort of demonstrate that.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, we're going to get to the point where we're going to be offering people in the audience in the Law of Attraction Change My Life group, where we are live streaming this at a future time, to come in and get the same kind of help. And we're going to give you advance notice and all that kind of good stuff. So it's going to be fun. But today we're devoting some time to Linda. And Linda, we want to bring you on. How you doing? Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
We're,
Yeah.
we're glad to
Nice
have
to
you
meet
here.
Walt.
Nice to meet you too, and we appreciate you taking your time to join us today. And we're going to see if
And the fact that we were able to get all the technical stuff to
Yeah.
mostly work for the most part. We
Except
had
for the
a little
music,
glitches
but-
this morning.
yeah, but that's all right. We'll deal with that. That's okay. That just
Okay,
means
we
that I'm
only
testing
need
new
the
software.
dancing.
Yeah, I know. We missed the dance. Hey, you turn on the music doesn't play. You just move on to the next part. That's all.
Exactly.
So.
So anyway, well, Linda, we had talked a little bit about, coming into this with some ideas of some issues or challenges that you wanted to talk about, and maybe get some help on how to approach things using law of attraction to basically, make yourself happier. I mean, that's kind of our goal for everybody, right? So,
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit about what we were just starting to touch on that right before? Can you tell me about that again?
I was talking about discouragement, where you can have a visualization. You can be in a really place of faith and optimism and belief, and then when time goes by, there's times where you just dip into discouragement. and I have dipped into discouragement lately. And I know that the Hicks work, they talk about then you're repelling attraction, but sometimes it's hard to get out of. It's hard to switch gears. So
I
that's
think
where
I
I'm
think you're
at.
right, because that momentum, once it kind of gets going down the rabbit hole, it sort of has a life force of its own, and it sometimes can be really tough when you're down in there to find your way
Right.
out, to sort of dig your way out of that hole. And we've all been there. So can you tell me a little bit about what that discouragement looks like, or what's that's been like for you recently?
Well, I think the discouragement is more hopeful in, well, one, romantic connection has been something, and then I really have to work on not looking back at a past relationship and having a longing for that. And even though I didn't want to commit in that relationship and I felt like there was something missing, I think I'm missing my best friend. And then the men that I'm meeting, I don't feel the connection with anyone that I'm meeting. And I think when I first started dating again, I felt like it was going to be an easier way to make connections, and it just hasn't been. I just haven't felt that with anyone, and that gets discouraging for me.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it would be. Do you have an idea of how you would like things to be and feel?
Yes, I'd like to have somebody that really inspires me, that I really feel. A lot of times in a relationship, I felt like I'm the one that inspires or helps the other person,
Uplifts.
and so I wanted someone that inspires me. I also would like playfulness, and I'd like humor and things like that. Somebody that's got their life together. Um, so I have a feeling, and I just really like committed partnership. Um, and it seems to be, I've had a pattern going where it seems like get a really true connection for me, like somebody that I really adore. It's either they adore me and I don't feel the same way, or vice versa. And, or at least I feel like potential, and it's not mutual. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just missing a mark on that area of my life.
What was it that you felt was missing from that past relationship that you were just in? You were saying that there was a lot of things that were good about it. You kind of missed that, but
I
were there
wanted,
things that didn't work for you, or?
there were things that I questioned myself about, whether I was being too picky, but he felt like he felt needy at times. He felt a little more serious. We didn't have a playfulness that I really wanted, a banter, like having it just be fun to go to Home Depot or whatever. I wanted that kind of playfulness, and I I just wanted someone who felt more solid and, like I was saying, could inspire me also. And I question that, and that's probably where I keep going back to that, because he was actually really sweet, loving, kind. I mean, he treated me like a queen, and I'm more mature in life, and so start questioning if everything that I want is available. Um, and then I get discouraged.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What were the things in that relationship that were working for? What was working for you? What were the things that felt good for you? What were some of the feelings?
He was very supportive, extremely generous,
And so
extremely.
how did that translate into your feelings? What did that make you feel like?
It made me feel that I had someone that had my back, protective, caring. It made me feel
So you
good.
felt secure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt secure, and that he did do a lot of things that were great. He could make plans, and it just felt good. Whether it's a play or out to dinner, making reservations, just he really was thoughtful about, and so it made me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's more of what you would like moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the other thing missing, Patty, was I had some attraction to him, but it wasn't. I was hoping for more,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things is where I questioned: is when is it enough? Is it enough? And so I broke it off. Basically, he wanted to marry me, and the hard thing is I go back to longing for him, and as I'm going out and dating men and comparing with what I had to what I'm meeting, and finding discouragement and disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's
I
where
totally get that idea of, is it enough? You know, one of the things that I also struggle with the whole idea of relationships and law of attraction and how you make them work together is, you know, on one hand you think, well, you know, I should just be in a high enough vibration that where I'm solid in my own thing, where I don't have to have these certain things in this other person.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kind of the reality of dealing with that day to day. And then there's also the thought, well, you know, but if it's law of attraction and I'm putting that out there, I should be able to have everything that I want.
Right.
So it is kind of a dilemma in a way. I know, Walt, you've talked a lot about, or a little bit at least, about in the past how that relationship with your wife came about and how it really did have all those aspects that you were looking for.
What was even more amazing to me is after we met and after we kind of compared notes, Louise actually pulled out a piece of paper that she had written when she was pursuing her master's degree in family therapy. And in that list, she had identified all the characteristics that she wanted in a mate, and I matched every one of them. That blew me away. I mean, I literally matched everything on her list. For me, my list was actually not written down, but for me, it really came down to one thing. I just wanted to have a steady relationship that would actually hold its own and be fun, and with somebody that I would care about and who would be my best friend. That was my list. That was my entire list, and she matched all of them.
Guys always have this little tiny list, you know? It's like 3 things. Women, it's like 25 pages long.
Well, that's all right, though. But actually, I think I willed it down over time because I mentioned to you, Patty, once before, my biggest difficulty, because Linda, I can barely call it dated. I dated very inadequately for about 20 years. And I say that because during that 20-year period, I think there was one relationship I had that lasted a month. That was the longest one. Everything else was just one disaster after another. So to actually get into a relationship that was working and that was going to go on and has now gone on for 20 years, that was beyond my belief. That was beyond anything I could imagine. I was just limiting it down to, well, none of the rest of it's worked. Let's just get it down to this one little small subset. If I can do that much, I'm doing well. That's the way I felt about it, because I had just gotten so badly beaten up. Now, what I didn't realize until much later is that for me, and I'm not saying this is you or anybody else, I'm just saying for me, this is what happened. I found that I was constantly shooting down every single person I met in my mind. And I didn't know I was doing it. Well, what I thought I was doing was saying, well, this could be a problem and that could be a problem. But what I was actually doing was finding fault, finding reasons why it was not going to work. And that was my default way of thinking about it. So, of course, by the law of attraction, the law of attraction says, okay, then you're not going to have a successful relationship. Delivered exactly what I asked for. And when I figured that out, it was like, oh, God, why did I do that?
And it's funny, too, because you had mentioned that when you guys first met, you like couldn't stand each other that first date. You were like, oh, no.
It's not that we couldn't stand each other. It's just that we couldn't connect. We'd had 3 straight weeks of 2 to 3 hour phone calls that had gone really, really well. And then we actually got together in a bad restaurant. And I had not totally clued her in. Linda, I'm 6'8" tall, so I'm pretty darn tall. I told her I was tall. I had not told her how tall I was. She had not asked real close, although she had tried to play up how tall she was if she stood on her tiptoes. So she was expressing some interest in meeting. But when we met, she came dressed, I don't remember exactly what she was dressed in, but she had this straw hat, a very beat up, chewed up straw hat that she thought of as fun and quirky, and that I thought made her look like a hick. And it was like the worst possible way to start the meeting. And then for the rest of the date, literally, we sat down at a table. I looked at the top of her hat, and she looked at the table. That was the entire conversation. So there was no connection going on at all. It was a disaster from that point of view. Now, it's not like we were fighting or anything.
Like, how
but
do you know?
Yeah, it was just, it was not a good start. But fortunately, we both have good friends. Her good friend said, so what's the problem? And she says, he's so darn tall. How are we going to ever fit together? And her friend said, well, if that's the only thing holding you back, don't let it hold you back. And my friend, who was the one who introduced the two of us, said, so how did it go? And I said, it was terrible. And I just told her what I told you. And her reply was, well, you're going to use the 3-date rule, right? And I said, the what? And she said, the 3-date rule. I said, what's the 3-date rule? And she said, you give it 3 days before you make a decision. I said, oh, God, do I have to? That's literally what I said. But we did. I met her again, and the next date went better, and the third date went better than that. And by the end of the month, we were together.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You know what that made me think of too is when you talked about how what you were looking for on your list, and your list was kind of feeling oriented. It wasn't really like this character this tall or has to be
Well,
this
no,
much money
height.
or
I mean, I
like-
didn't want to date somebody who was 5 foot. I didn't specify that clearly, but yeah, I was hoping I'd given on somebody who was going to be anywhere near my height. That was just not in the realm of possibility. Well, mostly not in the realm of possibility. I actually did meet one woman who was 6'3", just in time for her to move to Florida. But other than that, it just wasn't really in the cards. She was very nice too, but she wanted to move to Florida. So.
And so what was it about that? I'm just curious if there was a feeling that the height thing made you feel. Like if there was that big of a difference, what feeling did that evoke in you that wasn't comfortable for you?
Well, the height thing was what I usually associated with why it was I wasn't getting anywhere. Because there were a lot of negative reactions to height. I mean,
interesting.
Women want tall men. They don't want super tall men. Because it's too tall. It's too tall. It's too scary.
So funny. That would never have occurred to me. That's so funny.
I don't know what to tell you.
Somehow
you're taller than average though, aren't you, Patty? I think you are.
I'm like 5'8". Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's still about average. A little bit higher than average, but yeah. I find that taller women tend to be more answering the way
more
to
open
you.
to taller men.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Well, not that, but that they just don't have that kind of block that a shorter woman has.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering too if when your wife put that list together that she was looking for, if she was considering the fact that all of those things came true, if she was approaching that when she was in a particularly high vibration when she wrote that out. Just kind of makes me wonder because, the idea behind that Abraham talks a lot about is when we are about to enter into something that we want, if we're coming from that centered or high vibration place, like they say, after meditation is when you should think about what are the impulses that come to you and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, given the fact that it was so successful, that she was in either high vibration or she was really lined up with those things.
I'm not sure.
She had to be.
I'm not sure what the answer is to that. It was quite a few years before. This was not like the same year that she'd written that list out. She'd written it, I'm going to say, 10 years before that. So it had been hanging around for quite some time. So if there was some resistance involved, that would explain, the 10-year delay. She wrote it for class. I know that she liked most of her teachers when she was pursuing her master's degree. She's talked about them quite a bit. So she probably was in a pretty good space when she wrote it. But I can't say what happened during the interim, other than the fact that it was a terribly successful 10-year period from a relationship point of view. And the impetus is also interesting because she had a black cat for 16 years named Shadow, and Shadow had died the previous November, and that was a fairly traumatic event in her life, but it was also kind of a game-changing event because when friends asked her if she was going to get another cat without skipping a beat, she would answer, "No, I'm going to get a husband." In other words, she had changed her mindset so completely that it was a big deal for her. So
Wow.
there was certainly a
And when was
vibrational
that?
thing going
When was
there.
that shift?
Well, that we met in May 1998. That was in November 1997 that the cat died, and she was asked that question within the next couple of months after he died.
Uh-huh. So she kind of made a shift at that point.
Yeah, and she started asking everybody
Which I
that she
wonder
knew.
if that.
She literally asked every person that she knew whether or not they knew any emotionally healthy men. That's the way she phrased it. Yeah, yeah. She just kept putting it out there, and
So
one of the people.
she became open to it.
She was
suddenly
very
was
open to it. She was more than open. She was determined. And my wife can get very, very determined. Yeah. She does. She does. And I think that's how she achieves her vibration. Just but through she's just determined to get there. When she's ready to, when she wants to. If she's not ready to, forget it. It's not going to happen. But when she's ready to, she just plows right ahead.
And I've even heard sometimes where Esther or Aber, whoever, has called the person up during those workshops. And some of the people didn't necessarily believe it, but they said even if your desire is strong enough, it can overcome even the belief.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if for her that's really effective.
I think that's what it was.
So,
exactly.
Interesting.
I have a question for Linda, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You described, Linda, one of the things that you were hoping for from a potential mate was playfulness. And so I'm just curious to know, how playful are you?
Well, when I'm discouraged, I'm not playful, but typically I was the playful one in the last relationship. I was more the playful one. So in my element, I'm playful. So I think I'm playful, and but right now, and in this place and time I'm in right now, I go back to seriousness because discouragement and seriousness go together for me.
What do you like when you're playful, though? That's what I'm curious about. I mean, what for you is playful? What kind of attitude? What kind of things to do? All that kind of stuff.
Like boogie boarding, socialization, doing some dance lessons together. Just sort of like the little banter that you might have with a person in a fun way, not sarcastic, but just where you kind of can ping off each other. Obviously I can be more playful because I'm not attracting playful. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good point because I wonder, obviously whatever it is that you're feeling right now is what's going to be coming into your life. So, and you were saying, that's where we came for that idea of the discouragement piece.
Right.
When you are in a discouraged place, you're going to attract discouraging situations.
Right.
So then,
I was just going to say it's interesting. I just came back from Esalen, and I felt this sadness coming on, and the man that I met right before I left, he's handsome, he's successful, he is very dry. When we talked after our lunch date, we talked a couple times, and then he told me last night, he said, I'm not a flake, but I'm taking some time out. I got overstressed, and I'm not my, highest self. I don't know how he worded it exactly, but I'd like to go out next weekend, but I'm working on eating better, meditating, and doing the things to get me in a good place. And so it's a complete match to me because I'm kind of working on shifting out of this and shifting back into my happy place. So,
What normally helps you, or what has helped you in the past when you're wanting to shift into a better place? Have you found things that have worked for you?
um, I sometimes I just start acting as if I am happier, that things are going to work out okay, kind of starting to do positive affirmations, and like going to dance lessons or something like that, do something that I push myself, even though I don't feel like it, I just do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that can help me shift out.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you do better when you meditate, or you do better when you're out of the house and around people, or what tends to make you into a lighter
When
mood?
I'm out of the house around people, it does help when I meditate because I do believe in the power of prayer, and I like to do a meditation prayer time together, and I think that helps because I quiet my mind. I've got a real monkey mind, and then it really helps to have socialization. I do love to meet new people and um, ping off that. It's really fun for me because right now I'm not working, and I think that's actually helpful to. I get energized by socialization.
So you're more of an extrovert.
Yeah, if it feels like the right tribe, and if it doesn't feel like the right tribe, then sometimes it's not good. Like I've got some girlfriends that I may be shutting out of because they're more pot smokers and like to get drink and go to concerts and dance, and it's just not my scene. It's not, and I would say nature and having talks that have some depth to them, exercising, just things that are more conscious, light me up.
So are you finding that when you're feeling kind of discouraged or down, that it's tough for you to take the steps to do those things or to even remember what they are?
Yeah. Yeah, when I get really discouraged, which I have lately, and it's also, like I say, the piece of looking back at my last relationship, and I know it's not helpful because I have this longing that's going on, and I'm trying to put that into perspective that you miss your best friend. I mean, that is what happens when you lose a relationship, whether it's the one that's meant to be or not. It's
a
I feel
loss.
like you lose a lover and a best friend, and whether they were the one or not. And yeah, so it's a huge loss, and I feel that I'm still working through that.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, definitely that is a big loss. Even if it's not the end all be all, even if you're making the conscious choice to not stay in that, it's huge because it's, someone to hang out with and someone to talk to at the end of the day about, the minutia of your day and just physical affection and all of those kind of things is really tough. Especially if, I know, I mean, I'm all a huge believer in girlfriends and having that group. Or for guys, I guess it's for guy friends, because that really, that's less likely to have that ebb and flow of a romantic relationship, more likely to kind of just be there for you. So it's a nice support to have. But it sounds like you're kind of wanting to make a shift even in that area as well.
Yeah, I was just talking to I got a whiplash, and I have a massage therapist I love, and I'm close to the same age, and we were just talking about life transition, how sometimes you just transition to a different tribe. And yeah, I do have some girlfriends that I'm more related to, but I'd like to get some closer girlfriends, definitely. Because one of my girlfriends that I'm really close to has lupus, and she can't do a whole lot. She's just sick a lot. So I need to build a new tribe. Yeah, so it's a lot of planting new seeds.
So when you have you made that shift before? Have you had it where you got a certain group and then you shift to another group, or is this kind of a new thing?
Uh, I think it's probably happened before. I mean, the one girlfriend I've had for 10 years, um, and I I believe what happens is some I haven't built as deep of friendships because I have been in the relationship, and so I talk to women and I have different friends, but they're not as deep and solid as I would like.
Have you thought about doing the same kind of thing with finding women friends as you might with a potential mate? Making a list, identifying what those characteristics are, making it really clear?
I haven't thought of that, but that's a really good idea. Yeah, I would like to have, more solid, deep, connected, like where you have the commonality, um, than I do right now.
hmm hmm And I think also, especially given the fact that you are so social and that is such a big part of what makes you happy, is really
hmm
connecting with other people. So I think that's a great idea, Walt. And, the other thing I was also just thinking of was, sometimes Walt and I've talked about this before. I don't know if it was on air or not, but when you're having a difficult time with, just in a downtime, it's really hard. You're in this low vibration. And so none of those high vibration thoughts are even connecting to you. They're just sort of over there and you can't even remember them sometimes. You can't,
Yep.
it's like, how Abraham says you can't get here from there from there. You can't get there from here
Yeah.
because it's over there. And you're like, how do I get to there? How do I get to there? But I find too, I get into that place where it's hard to remember those. So one thing Walt and I were talking about was just developing a list even of when you are in a good place or when you do identify those good feeling things that feel good to you, is just having that list of those possible things you could go to help raise your vibration. Because, if we go back to the thoughts of the what's making you feel bad and the past relationship, it you can go down and down and down that rabbit hole. And even just thinking about relationships at all, getting one can also make you go kind of down that rabbit hole. So, I think those are the times when just pivoting away from that thought completely onto any other good feeling thought, even just ignoring that whole part of your life for a little bit.
hmm Yeah.
And
And for
focusing
me,
on something that's more fun.
what what I'm grateful for is I was really sick this year with bronchitis. I'm for almost a year. It was they couldn't figure it out. I was asthmatic, like almost asthmatic. I mean, I wasn't asthmatic, but I was wheezing. It was all things I'd never had before. I've never had a lung issue and all this. And I
Wow.
had fevers for months, and no. So I'm on the other side. I just got on the other side a couple months ago. Maybe 3 months ago, I joined a dating coaching group, and that's all about having tenacity in your dating and getting out there and doing all that. I
Very
think
action
that,
oriented.
yeah, and I was on a excited thing in the beginning, but yeah, like you say, Patty, maybe I've thought about that same thing. Maybe it feels like if most of or a lot of my focus is on that now, and if you don't, I call it get the basket in the hoop. If you don't find what you're looking for, then it
hmm
just feels like failure. And so it's better to have a well-rounded, lots of pieces of the pie, so that it feels like it's just one thing. Yeah, I mean, she does talk about making dating a spiritual practice and just showing up and being there with another person. But all in
But
all,
if right now, if you are, aiming for that, but it's not working for you right now,
right.
rather than sort of beating your head against the wall and trying to sort of push or effort in a direction
hmm
that's not feeling good,
Right.
That's just going to get you more efforting and not feeling good.
Right.
Because it's, and it's not, I mean, that it might be a great approach, but when you're in a good place. And it sounds like in the beginning you were. So it was really kind of get going and this is really fun. But now you've like hit this wall where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm forcing myself to do this stuff and it sucks. It just doesn't feel good.
Yes.
And I feel like the more you push yourself in a direction that doesn't feel good is the opposite of what would be helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had periods of time where I've gone through the whole dating thing, and it's a lot of fun, and then it starts feeling really yucky, and it's like, oh, I just gotta, put that aside for right now and not even worry about it, and focus on literally anything else that feels better.
Right.
Whatever that next better feeling thought is. So, I mean, it sounds like for you, I mean, I don't know if you might find it helpful to do that list of those things that do feel good to you. You'd start mentioning, I mean, you even got lighter just talking about it, getting to sort of hang out with other people and go out into nature and do those kinds of things. I mean, it seems like those are real boosters of your vibration.
I did write, when I went to Esalen, we had this writing practice, and that's where I wrote about what to do in the meantime, like go back to dance lessons, go back to, I mean, I always think about being a dog, like it might be a cool thing, but I really want a human being, so I kind of go through, I don't know what I want to do in that area.
Well, but the thing is, one doesn't mean you can't have the other. I mean, if you did decide you wanted to get a dog and it raised your vibration, that's going to bring in anything that's in your vortex.
Right.
Versus if you are sort of like, well, I'm just going to wait, you're in this holding pattern of negativity. And it seems like it would be tough to kind of, if that's your focus and you're focusing on the stuff that's making you feel bad, it's just going to bring more bad feelings, thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Like, I can't have the good things in life until, I meet the guy, but I'm not meeting the guy. And so it's a vicious catch-22. Yeah.
I remember that from when I was. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say when I met Louise, up until that point in time, I had been very active in. You mentioned dancing. I was a swing dancer, and I did that for about 10, 11 years. And one of the things I learned pretty early on there, and you probably learned this too, is the importance of doing it just because I loved to do it, not to meet somebody. And the interesting thing is that when I let go of that, when I let go of meeting somebody through the dance community, I ended up meeting Louise not through the dance community because she wasn't in the dance community, but through somebody I knew in the dance community because the person that she asked was a coworker who was one of my dance partners in the dance community. So it actually did end up connecting us, but just not the way I expected to. And it only happened when I let go of the idea of meeting somebody that way.
Right.
So, and I think that's one of the coolest things ever when the universe works out the path of least resistance for you. It's like you were thinking, I want to just go meet someone in this dance community.
Right.
And when you let go of it, the universe is like, okay, well, now that you let go of the oars, I can step in, or we can step in, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And figure out what's going to be the path that works the best for you, that gets you what you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we do just try too hard. It's like, no, I'm going to be determined. I'm going to make this happen. And if it's not feeling good, it means don't go that direction. I mean, that's the universe giving us that, how do they describe it, as the emotional guidance system. So that's our emotional guidance system. The universe is saying, if I'm giving you this guidance, this feels bad, that means stop doing that and go in another direction. And when you're doing something that does feel good, and you just get those good feelings going and raise your vibration, it allows, here's all the stuff in your vortex, or I guess Esther does it down to the left, but let's say here's all the stuff in your vortex that you've been putting in there for your whole life and lifetimes, and it's all there, already happened vibrationally, it's there. It's just we're not getting it into our experience until we've raised our vibration and we're lined up with it. We're not doubting it. We're not focusing. We're not pushing so hard. You know what I mean?
I think, yeah, I'm a very tenacious type person. With my health, I'm very much into alternative health. And so I'm like research, research, research. I mean, it's worked out for me. And, but yeah, in the dating thing, it's just, it can get exhausting, especially online dating. It's just, and I know that principle that if you feel like this isn't fun, it's my vibration isn't going to be high. It's kind of
If it's work, it's going to be work. It's not going to be fun.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was nice when I went to Evelyn because I did meet a cute guy, and we talked, and then we talked for a couple hours. He lives in Georgia, so he's probably not the guy, because I didn't know he was leaving the next day, and I left, went to the hot tubs, and anyway, we disconnected, but we talked for hours, and but it was nice to just feel that, to feel, oh, that feels really good, and I haven't had one of those yet.
So talk about that feeling. What was that? Name all the feelings that you can that felt like
attraction and vulnerability. I mean, attraction for him, and then he's very communicative and able to share, and then just
it was kind of exciting good. And kind of fun.
Yeah, it felt good, and he then said, I have a story to tell you, and part of it includes you, and it was because I was the first woman he's been vulnerable with since his marriage fell apart, and wanted to really talk to me. And so it just sort of felt good that he was like that. And it was exciting.
So somebody that was expressing his connection with you, and you felt the same.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so that felt good. And I was wondering with Walt, I just had a question. Just out of curiosity, your wife list, like how did you feel like it was a practical list, or like a more expansive and more amazing that she was able to fulfill all that with you?
I was just blown away that I matched any of it, to be perfectly honest. But when I got it from a more objective viewpoint, it was, boy, I'm not sure if I can answer the terms that you asked it. I'll just try it this way. It was a combination of characteristics and things that she would feel strongly about, that she would have a strong emotional reaction to. So it was a mixture of things. And the biggest thing for me was just that I matched every single item. There were like, I don't know, 14, 15 items on the list. I matched them all.
That's what I was kind of curious how many items did
it was around 14, 15 items. Yeah, and she did not even remember what was on the list. I mean, literally, she had to go dig it out of a file or something like that, and took her a while to find it. In fact, I think it was a number of days, and a few days later, she says, guess what, I found my list. And she pulls it out, and we're reading it over together. And she said, I don't even remember putting some of these things on there, and they were a match. That's what was so amazing about it. She remembered some of it, obviously, but she didn't remember all of it. And I matched every single thing. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was before I even knew what the law of attraction was. So I didn't know what to make of it. Later on, when I learned what the law of attraction was and remembered back to that, well, of course, it makes sense. But at the time, I was like, no, this is just spooky. That's all that is. That's just spooky.
So that's awesome. There was one other thing that one of you said, and I can't remember which one, but you were talking about when your belief, or maybe it was your belief overcomes your desire, or your desire overcomes your belief. And
yeah, early on, in the beginning of the call, Walt was talking about how determined his wife is, and that I said, I've heard in some of the workshops where Abraham has said, you can make things happen in more than one way. You can bring things into your experience in more than one way. And one of them that is really what maybe they consider to be the easiest, I don't know, is when you do get into a high vibration and you're lined up with stuff, and that brings it in. But they also talked about how even if you're doubting something, if your belief is super, super strong, it can still come in because that belief can override even your belief. I mean, that desire can override your belief.
We see that a lot in life too. I mean, everybody can
Mm.
think of people who are not necessarily happy people, but they're just emotionally driven and they attract all kinds of stuff into their lives. Not necessarily what anybody else might want, but nevertheless, they attract in because they're just, I'm just going after it. I'm just so driven. I'm so passionate. That kind of thing. You can see it. You can just see what happens with them.
And it's funny because they talk about how, you can't do that, but that's action oriented and it's a lot harder. It's a lot more work.
Yeah, of course it's a lot more work. Well, you got to be doing the work if you're going to be that passionate. I mean, there's nothing else to do with it. It's not like you're feeling great. So you got this kind of maybe anger-based or frustration-based passion going on, and you're just driving through no matter what. That is going to be exhausting. But if you got the passion, you'll just carry you until you just fall flat on your back because you're exhausted.
So, there have been times when, and I know we've all experienced it, I have definitely, where you just aren't, where you kind of do get to that point where you let go and you just kind of, either you're letting go and you're letting the universe take over, or you really are believing it. You're really not doubting it. You're really lining up with it so that you can actually feel that feeling. And what that reminded me of is like with this guy, Linda, where you met him, what that did was it brought you into that higher vibration and it reminded you of what that feels like. And you actually experienced it. And if you can really milk those feelings and recall those feelings, it'll bring it into your present and bring you to that vibrational level where it may allow, if that gains enough momentum, it may allow somebody to come into your experience that matches that, or that more closely matches it, or that matches those feelings. Mm-hmm. So I think the more that we can put ourselves emotionally in the place of the feelings that we want to feel, even if it's not about that topic, it brings in things that recreate those feelings.
Right.
And that was kind of why I was thinking of that list, is if you can come up with things like, even sometimes when we're low vibration, I mean, one way to deal with that is you take a nap. Another one is to, just cut off from that momentum, either meditating or switching the topic or whatever it is. But I think another helpful tool is when you're in that low place and you want to shift it, having that list of those things that you at the moment aren't really able to access because you're not there, having that list of things that really make you feel good, and then just doing one of them, just picking one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, increase that.
In contrast to what this coach is saying, I'm still in this coaching group, and she went on 97 dates before she met her husband 15 years ago. I mean,
So she's doing the determined approach.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she
Which
says
can work.
we don't have to do that many because there's more knowledge and the internet's better and all that now. But still, it's kind of like. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you can shift that approach. So still, be able to use that approach, but shift your mindset in a way where you're approaching it not so much from, I want to meet the guy, and more from, this is an experiment to see what the universe brings to me when I'm in a certain vibrational level.
That's a good one, yeah.
So that you can still take the action if you want. Right. I mean, if you really don't want to do it, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But, one idea would be to kind of maybe still take those steps if you want to continue on with the action mode of things. But if there's a way you can shift your mindset about it where it's not this should, efforting, doubting approach, but if there's a way that you can shift your mindset about even what that exercise means for you.
Right.
So that it could be like, gee, I'm just going to, try and get myself, I'm going to do one of these things on my happy list, and I'm going to get myself into a good vibration before I take any action, which is key, really, really key. And then taking some action when you're in that good place and sort of making it like, gee, I'm going to just have an experiment for these next 10 dates or whatever it is, or action steps you're going to take, where I'm going to really get myself into a high vibration before I do that, and then see if it has any kind of different result, where you're taking the angst and effort out of it and making it more like an observation.
That sounds good. Mm-hmm.
In fact, the other thing you can also tie in is, instead of planning out what you're going to do as your action steps, make it a little more spontaneous. You get an inspiration, go with the inspiration, rather than figuring out, well, is this really what I want to do, and all that kind of stuff. If it feels good, just go do it. Don't allow yourself to just stay on it for a while. Go get out there, go do it. That takes a lot of strain off.
Yeah, just go with whatever feels good at the moment. Yeah, because I think that it is really easy once you get into that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to effort. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to take these steps, whether I want to or not. Isn't
that's not
helpful.
good.
And if you really are, if you're really not wanting to do it, just don't do it.
Right. Yeah. And then, Walt, you were saying you've been at this before you met your wife, you were dating for 20 years?
Yeah. From college until we met. Yeah.
How were you able to stay positive through all that?
Absolutely not.
Pretty positive?
Not even close. If I had been able to stay positive, it would have taken 20 years. No.
Okay.
I was very definitely getting more and more negative every year. And really the only reason I believe that Louise and I ended up meeting and connecting is that at the end of that roughly 20-year period, I had just been through one of the most miserable non-relationships you can actually be in, and yet not call it a relationship. And I was just so sick of what had been going on for years and years and years, I threw in the towel. I quit. I said, I give up. I just let, and it was my way of letting go. I gave up on trying so hard to find a relationship. And then my friend called me up and said, hey, I got a friend of mine, a coworker, who's interested in meeting you. And I said, no way, I just quit. I mean, literally, I just threw in the towel. I was done. But she gently talked me into it, and one thing led to another. But it was me letting go of the struggle, of the chase, of trying to find, and so forth. That if it hadn't been for that, I probably would still be stuck in it, because I was really in a very bad negative spiral, really bad. Yeah. And I didn't know about law of attraction. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Did you know about the law of attraction?
No.
So then, did you find out about that after you met your wife?
Long after, yeah. My wife and I married in 1999, and I found about law of attraction when I saw The Secret in November 2007. So, yeah, quite a while later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really key.
It's funny.
That's right.
It's funny how. It's just funny how. I just love how it's such a great demonstration of the letting go piece.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's like that whole analogy of having your boat, like she was talking about when, or Esther was talking, or Abraham, whoever was talking, about when she and Jerry were on this whitewater rafting trip. And she said, nobody got in there and tried to row upstream. Like, why would you do that? You know that there's this momentum, this force of the water that, you can try and try. You might be able to stand still maybe, but like, why? Why not just turn around and let it take you where it's going to take you? And it's that same idea of what you did, Walt, was to let go of the oars. It's like here you're like trying to go upstream and trying to go upstream and trying to go upstream and realizing like this is getting me nowhere. And I am just done with this. I'm too tired. I mean, it's like it takes getting beaten into exhaustion before we finally, a lot of times, are willing, or where we get so depressed, where we just have to let go. We're like, something's got to give, and I just give up. And it's at that moment that so many times things like that fall into our existence. Because, Linda, you've already, I'm sure, put every possible detail already in your vortex of what you want. I mean, it's all there. And that guy's in there spinning around. Or more than one guy. Who knows? Maybe it's not one guy. Maybe it's a bunch of guys.
And they're getting really dizzy.
They're like, whoa!
Help! Let me out! Help me, Mr. Wither!
And I think that it's a matter of not, I really don't think it's getting more specific about you want. I mean, that's one of the things Abraham talks a lot about. When you're in a low vibration, don't get specific. That's when you want to get general. So getting more specific and more detailed about what you want in this guy, or how you want this relationship to be, or what you want his characteristics to be, is just going to add to that resistance, because it's already there. It's already all there. That's all the step one stuff. And it's really the step three stuff. And the step two is the universe, made it happen. It's already hanging out there. The step three is that piece of allowing. And so how do we allow? We allow by raising our vibration in whatever way that works. It doesn't even matter how it works.
In fact, you were pointing out a moment ago, you were pointing out how you want to try to get into the higher vibration before you take any kind of action. That is generally the best way to do things. But Joel Elston, who does the Thursday morning podcast with me, likes to point out you don't necessarily have to do it in that order. You just have to do them relatively close to each other. So you can start taking action, and then while you're taking the action, use that to get yourself into a high vibration. That works just as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes.
Kind of like even just hanging out with this guy that weekend, that raised your vibration there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
In fact, if I were you, I would milk that in your mind. That great meeting you had. Don't think about the fact that it didn't work the way you wanted it to. Think about all the ways that it did work, and really dwell on that one a lot, because that was great.
Yeah, replay it in your mind, pull up the things that made you feel good about that, and really get into those feelings of how that made you feel. Because the more you just have the feelings, whether it's in your present or not, it's going to bring that into your present, and that's what's going to let all that stuff come in. So I just let your mind go wild on that one.
Well,
it's a great idea to really milk it.
Organic, because my daughter looked at him when he walked by. We were in the hot tubs, naked, okay? And he walked by.
There's a moment.
She said, "Now there's an attractive man for you, Mom." And then anyway, later on, we were in the same pool, and we started talking, and then we talked by the bonfire, and I thought, what a way to meet somebody, both naked, and somehow
talk about vulnerable.
Yeah. There's no sexual vibe, because it just is kind of, there's an honoring the hot tubs there. It feels very, very good. But I still think it's a very funny way to meet somebody for the first time. It's,
Yeah.
Look at the way you're lighting up as you're talking about that, too.
I know. See, it's true. You're like, oh, you get all
your face got all warm and...
Well, it's fun to meet somebody organically like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much more, it is fun, where it's not orchestrated through online dating. Not that I poo-poo online dating. I know many people have met through that, but it's nice when it's just like serendipity.
Another thing to milk, another feeling. A really good feeling you're having there.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really the trick. I've learned that finding all this. Patty was helping me with a couple things like this. How important it is to have certain things to go to when you need to have that go-to thing. Stuff like that you can milk whenever you want to, because it's fresh in your mind. That's great. Just keep going back there. It really does work.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Hey, we got just a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure I want to get the promos in, and I want to give you your chance to do your promo too, Patty, because we did skip that last week, and we can't skip that this week. So first things first, for people who are not yet subscribers to the podcast, please do take a moment to become a subscriber. The instructions are on the homepage of our website at loatoday-net, in case you don't know how to do it. Also, for both new subscribers and existing subscribers, people who've been listening for a long time, please keep posting out there on social media. It is working. We are finding more and more people who are finding us. We're helping more and more people get their daily dose of happy, and you are playing a major role in it. So thank you for all that you're doing, and keep doing it. Keep putting that word out. The law of attraction works. Help, help, help. Keep doing it. And then, Patty, here's your moment. How does somebody reach out to you? I mean, Now 2 weeks in a row, we have been able to see just how good of a coach you are. So this is like the best promo we could possibly do for you. Now, how do they reach you?
Well, it's been really, really fun, and I'm still working on that damn website, so I can't give that. But I can give you my email address, which is patty@pattyframocoaching.com.
There you go.
That's a way that people can get in touch with me. And what I'm actually going to be doing is moving forward is offering some people to be able to do this coaching on during our podcast, which is really a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being here, Linda, and opening up with us. That was really cool.
No, thank you. Thanks. It was great to be here.
Before you go, is there anything that you found to be your best takeaway for the session so far?
Well, it's interesting. I was kind of in line with what Patty and you both talked about. We're taking a step back, finding other pieces that bring me joy, and letting this be a lighter piece instead of having this be so like my health mission. Okay, now it's my relationship mission, and
so it's not so heavy.
Yeah, so it's not so heavy. So to go light and find other things to focus on in the meantime.
By the way, I'll tell you something that I often tell to anybody, particularly to women, but I'll tell it to anybody who's struggling, particularly if they're struggling where relationships are concerned. You showed us your smile a few times. You have a gorgeous smile. Smile a lot.
Thank you.
It's not only good for you, it's also going to be attractive. You have a great smile, so just keep doing it.
Yep.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Smiling, in my opinion, is the best way to see who a person is. I mean, people say that eyes are windows to the soul, and I'm sure that's actually true. But smiles tell you everything about a person. You can just tell who they are. If they're not smiling, if they're just stone faced, you don't know who they are. But the moment that they're smiling, you see who they are. Personality just comes right through. Yeah. So that's why you become your own beacon to the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So good stuff. So this has been great. Thank you for joining us, Linda. We appreciate your time and your willingness to kind of put yourself out there, because it's a little bit nerve-wracking to put it out before the world. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Patty, thank you for doing what you're doing. And I look forward to continue to do it with you week after week, because you're so darn good at it.
You're so sweet. Thanks. That was really fun today.
All right, great. And we'll also enjoy having our listeners and friends on Facebook tuning in again, too. So be sure to check us out next time. And regular podcast listeners, we'll see you all next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
The broadcast of Facebook Live has stopped.
Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Has stopped.
Yep, just turning everything off. I can't play the music,
I miss our music.
I know. I want the music.
I know. I miss it. I wonder what happened.